Hey, fellow warriors. Welcome to the Ezers Mindset Podcast with your host, Altimese Nicole. She's an award-winning founder to the Ezers Agency, a philanthropist, mother, daughter, and friend. Here with the Ezers Mindset Podcast, we cultivate a safe space and community to be inspired by women worldwide that strive to be the best version of themselves boldly, softly, and unapologetically. An Ezers is a warrior created to help. So let's begin to help one another in family, fun, faith, life, and love.
Hello everyone, and thank you for joining me for yet another episode of the Ezers Mindset Podcast. I am your host, Altimese Nicole, and I am so excited to just dive into this yummy, juicy, amazing, inspirational, thought-provoking, honest, accountable conversation that I am about to have with my amazing sister friend, Tanya Turner, who actually started as one of my mentors. And we're going to talk about the beautiful gift of mentorship. But before we dive in, just want to give you a little insight of who Tanya Turner is. So she is a director of human resources now, with over 25 plus years of experience in the HR industry. And she is a powerhouse for women and encouraging women to follow their dreams unapologetically, speak up for themselves in the workplace, and make sure that they leave their own mark in however way they feel and however way they desire. And that's actually what led us into connecting. Um, at the time, I was, oh my gosh, Tanya, how old was I? I was young. I was like 21, 22.
Somewhere in that area, and I hate to even mention how old I was, but let's carry on with that.
Let's carry on. No, I was a baby child, and I was in CNN,
Mm-hmm.
bright eyed and bushy tailed,
Mm.
and just hungry for. I feel like hungry for everything, and wanted I wanted to succeed so badly. However, I didn't know certain tools. I didn't know office politics for one. I didn't know any of those things that keep you on the straight and narrow when you are in corporate America and help you to succeed. And that is actually how I met the beautiful Tanya. So, welcome, Tanya.
Oh,
Welcome,
thank you so
welcome.
much. You know what, Altimese, I'm just sitting here remembering our conversation at Turner, remembering that booth.
Oh,
We were
yes,
talking because a mutual friend of ours, the
yes,
power of connection connected us together. And I remember we were sitting on that bridge.
yes. That was
I
our first
remember.
conversation. That was like our
It
first real
was.
conversation.
I
Yes.
on the right, you on the left.
Oh,
And we were just talking, and I was like,
mhm.
this is gonna be good, and it's gonna be
Yeah.
interesting. But what's equally interesting is the fact to sit here and watch you. I'm so overwhelmed. I don't want to get all teary eyed on your podcast, but
Oh,
I'm happy for you because I remember when, for the both of us, what you don't remember or realize is that you were mentoring me as well. And I cannot wait to get into the juicy details, into the transparency of it all, because I know today we're going to have a real conversation.
yes, we will. We will. And you touched on this a little bit, the power of connection, right? Like, I feel like God uses specific people specifically for specific things, if you get what I'm saying.
I
You
do.
know, because I do believe that the person who connected us was purely to connect us. Hey, go on and move out the way. But
Yes.
like, I am so very, 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 very grateful that he even thought. Like, he was like, I got somebody you need to talk to. Like, literally, that's, I got somebody you need to talk to. And she in my department. Go on, let me give you her email. Go on and email her. Reach out. And it literally, years later, have
Years
us right
later.
here.
Mm. Yeah,
How
I agree. It's it's just mind blowing because the same thing happened to me. He said, I have a young lady that I want you to meet. And I met a lot of people at that job. And
Yeah.
some were instrumental in my development, and some just really just showed me some things not to do. Right.
Yeah.
And so
Yeah.
when I met you, you said that you were probably like 21. I can't even remember Altimese, but I know that I was probably in my 30s. Maybe I don't think I was going in my 40s yet. But when I met you, I was like, wow, she is super mature, super interesting, very well spoken. And I just had an instant connection with you. I don't know how you felt during that meeting, but we talked for a moment, and we started off talking that one day, and it just blossomed into so many different things, of which I'm sure we'll talk about today.
Yes, yes, yes. And did you know in that moment on that bridge with me that you were actually signing up to be a mentor? Like, did you know I want to mentor her? Or was that because in my head, I knew I knew that you were my mentor. Like, I don't know if I said that out loud, but I was like, yep, it's her. She's one. Like, did
I
you know
never
going
asked.
in?
Like it was not spoken. It was like an
No.
unspoken rule that I was maybe a few steps ahead of you in terms of on my career journey, and you were
Yeah.
merging in to your specific
Yeah.
lane. And all you needed to know is, what do I need on this journey to drive to my destination for
Yeah.
purpose? So I did feel that. I felt an instant connection with you. You were easy to talk to. But you never asked me, and nor did I say, hey, did you need a mentor? Or did you ask me, could you be my mentor? I think it was just understood. We're just going to rock this out. You know,
Yeah.
I'm here. I'm here because it's giving, I'm going to help this woman out, this young lady out.
Yes.
And what I got in return, I didn't even know I was going to learn from you. That was the blessing right there. I learned so much from you. I cannot wait to share some of the things that you blessed me with during this conversation as well.
Oh my gosh, girl. Listen, I will never, ever, ever forget the conversation on the bridge.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember there was a specific time in my career where I wanted to transition from the news division to entertainment. And y'all understand the seasons of life. Like, there are certain seasons where you feel like you in the valley. Like, it's just nothing is going right. You take two steps ahead, you get kicked back five. You got to make up like, that's kind of where I was, because I felt like I was ready for the next position, yet nothing was opening up. And I remember reaching out to an executive, and he was a white male. And I, was so excited to hear what he had to share with me. And, I went over to our other campus, and I wanted to just learn from him because he was in the entertainment side. And
Mm-hmm.
I remember sitting at a table in the cafeteria with him, and he had a napkin. And he had the napkin in front of him, and he said, it sounds like what you're looking for is here. And he pointed at that napkin, and he said, but we don't have that. He said, where you are is here, and pointed outside of the napkin.
Which
It
means
was like,
outside of the organization.
and he said, I don't know if what you're looking for we even have. And I remember leaving that conversation so defeated, only to get to my car. Do you remember this? And that dang
I
thing
remember
didn't even
this.
start.
Oh,
And I didn't know who else to call but Tanya. I literally was in tears in this parking garage on the other campus, and my
mhm.
car wouldn't start after this executive literally just told me, like, what you want doesn't even exist. Like, and Tanya, not only did she have somebody in facilities and properties help me. They came and jumped my car. She knew who to contact because I didn't know. I had no idea. I just knew that I was devastated and my car wouldn't start. She got somebody to come out there, jump my car, and then she sat and y'all, she prayed with me and she reminded me that I was meant for greater, even when that person said
Mm.
that what I wanted didn't even exist. Like she literally poured into me in a moment that, like, y'all, it just felt so low, if I'm honest. Like, yes, I had a job. Yes, bills were being paid, but I wasn't happy. And it was Tanya's assurance, it was her mentorship, it was her resources, because she knew exactly who to call to have them come and jump my car. And I think they were there in like 5 minutes. It didn't even take a lot of time. But she took that time out of her day, because I want to say it was like around lunchtime, or maybe it was like a little
It
bit after.
was because you had an
And
early morning conversation. And I remember that day too, Altimese, like yesterday. I just appreciate you saying that because it got me all misty eyed because we've all been
me
there,
too.
right? Where somebody tries to tell you and about your purpose, about what God has in store for you, about your dreams. So I understood that. But what's funny about that is that it goes back to the relationships, right? So when you told me
Mm,
that, I've always been resourceful. And I had established relationships with security and properties
mm,
at that time. And I knew, unbeknownst to you, that they could jumpstart your car. Like they had the equipment, unbeknownst to a lot of people, because nobody thought that they only thought that they secured the location. They didn't understand that
right.
they actually maintain the building. So if somebody's car, or if you need to call somebody, that's the first place you need to call. So I already knew who was the captain that was on duty. I already knew like where I needed to call. And because of the fact that I had influence, I was going to trade in just a favor, like, hey, just go over there and see like what's going on. And I
Mm,
think I actually came to the building or something happened. I don't know if I was working there at the time because both of us have been back and forth at the different buildings. And
yeah.
I remember that like it was yesterday because the conversation that we had and the fact that you were trying to move your career in a different direction, and just to think that where you are now or where you were thinking prior to, I'm just blown away because that person, and I don't even know who they are, but it's just the outcome of somebody sharing with you that almost like you don't fit in to the equation, or you don't have a space here. And so I just remember, I don't remember everything, but I just remember telling you that you may be here, you may not be here, but wherever you're gonna be, it's not gonna be no napkin conversation. It's gonna be greater than that. So I was happy at that time that I was able to use the resources that I had and to use my painful experiences because I learned a lot. Working in HR. And like I said, it was painful learning. And so I just wanted to kind of share with you at the time, just woman to woman, like, hey, don't drop your crown. Pick it up. You might have stepped on it. Somebody might have rolled through it at the parking lot, but go get it, right,
Yeah.
friend?
Yeah.
Go get it. Put it back on your head. Cry about it. See, that's what people want you to do. Buck up. Don't cry about it. No, cry about it. But
Yeah.
tomorrow, you weep
Yeah.
for a night, and
Yeah.
then joy kind of comes in the
Comes in the
morning.
morning.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
that now, if you look at that, think about that now, Altimese. Think about that conversation and where you are now.
Mm.
You needed that.
Mm. Mm-hmm. And y'all, he wasn't wrong. He
He
was not
wasn't
wrong.
wrong.
He
That
he
part.
what he
That
wasn't
part.
wrong. So when I officially transitioned over to the entertainment department, y'all, that was a role created. I was the first in the entire network to hold a position as such. He was not wrong. But that's how God moves,
Yeah.
like he makes a way. Like if there isn't a role that's perfect for you, best believe God can literally carve out a seat a title, a role, a position just for you.
Yeah.
And no one else have had it. And you can literally walk into it and set precedents for other people. And that's literally what happened. Literally what happened. I
Was that
can't
post that
make
you
this up.
posted out on Facebook? Was that when you started that job?
Yes.
That's what I was like. Yeah, I think it was when you started
Yes.
that job because I think your dream and your desire was to always go to Cartoon Network.
It was.
It was your dream and your desire. And so when we first started talking, I know that the individual who had introduced us was working over at Techwood, right, at the other
Yep.
campus, and he dealt a lot with the entertainment piece. Now,
That's
I was still
right.
in the corporate area, but I had been at the company for so many years that I knew just about practically everybody.
Right.
And the reason why I knew it, Altimese, is because I taught new hire orientation.
Mm.
So when I taught you see how God jungle gym stuff. So I taught new hire orientation. So when everybody
Mm.
came into the company, I knew everybody. So at first, these are the things that God, you don't want to do because
Right,
you
right,
feel
right.
like I don't want to do this. This is taxing.
Yep.
I got to remember all of these fun facts and who did this and what about the I-9 and not knowing that those things that you've learned
Mm.
will serve benefit not only to yourself but to others. So
Mm.
that's how I knew. I mean, because orientation, friend, was about 25 to 30 people. You know it. It
Right.
was
And it was a
huge.
rotation. They would one would finish, a new batch would come in.
I was just like, oh my God, because at the time, the company had over 10,000
Wow.
employees.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so just the fact 10,000 employees, two women meet each other in one building.
Mm.
But all
Mm.
those people floating in and out of there, and one
Yeah.
conversation between a mutual person that we both know, and here we sitting here today, one doing their dream job. Because I remember when you were like, I wanna do this, and for me, like I'm just at a point in my career where I'm just giving back. I'm not even.
Yeah.
I don't have to go a step further. I'm just giving back.
So like share with us like some of your learning lessons along the way,
Mm.
because one of the things that I immediately picked up from you is that your heart and your heart position in giving to others, it was connected to the fact that you may have not experienced what you're giving out, and you wanted to make sure that no one felt what you felt. So like share with us like some of your journey in terms of how, before meeting 21-year-old Altimese who fell in love with you and was like, oh my gosh, she's my mentor. Like, how did you, like, what got you to that place? Because I know you talk about, you know, being over orientation and all of that, but like, did you have a mentor through that process? And who
Yeah.
had your back, if
Yeah.
anybody?
That's a great question. I think for me, if I had a do over, I would have loved to have some of the opportunities that we talk about now, even like with my daughter and what your daughter will potentially have. I think some of the life lessons that I've learned, it's a few. I think that one thing is if I had to do it all over again, I would incorporate my faith in a lot of different things. Like I wouldn't hide it from
Mm,
anybody. I felt
mm,
like I had to hide it. I am baptized in Catholicism. I don't practice Catholicism every day, but I have Catholicism roots. I went to Catholic school. But I would have lived, because there would be many a times when I would be at work or things would happen to me and they would be so devastating. I've had so many things that at that job that happened to me that
mm,
were devastating that I didn't realize how much I should have, instead of worrying about it and talking about it, I should have been praying about it. So if I were to have a
mm,
do over, I would definitely incorporate my faith. I think that the one thing at this age, That's just a part of who I am. But I wasn't that I was ashamed of it. I just I couldn't find somebody who could relate to it. I find
Yeah.
some little inklings like yourself. I didn't really know at the time that, you gave me this book that changed my life about, is it the power of a woman or something to that
Oh,
effect?
the
But
power of being a woman.
yes, I read that book all
Yeah.
the time. When you wrote in there, I have to read you what you wrote. It blessed me tremendously. But what it made me realize too is that I should not be ashamed of my faith, of my God, my Jesus. Like,
Yeah.
he's the only reason that I got promotion when I was told I wasn't going to get promoted. He's the only reason I'm sitting here before you, because I didn't lose my mind. He's the only reason I was able to successfully raise my daughter and just never be married and not be viewed as a statistic, right? Because
Mm.
people judge. People have a lot of
All the time.
commentary, but they don't know your journey. So I would have to say living out my faith. Another thing is that don't let people diminish you in the
Mm.
workspace. So we could both talk to this. The times when we've made mistakes, right? Or we've had these hard conversations, or leaders that did not believe in us,
Mm-hmm.
and they didn't promote us, they didn't develop us, they didn't equip us, they did not speak well of us. And we used to
Yep.
think that that was the mechanism to get ahead. But
Mm-hmm.
what have we learned today? It is not. It
Yep.
seems that way. But if we go back to our faith, right, we know that God is the author of promotion. So he makes it
Mm.
happen, and it happens at its appointed time and not a moment before. But I was so caught up in the sauce of, what are other people thinking, and why are other people getting ahead of me and things like that. And I had to realize that sometimes people can't give you a good conversation because they don't have the tools and the resources to give it.
Mm.
And they're not giving it from a good place, Altimese. Anything we
Right.
talked about, I always gave you the skinny. I never was like, well, woo, woo, woo. No, this is
No.
what's going to be.
Facts.
I'm going to have to give you a chin check right now. You, if you feel like you're not getting what you need, then we need to go out and readjust and do something differently. Now,
Yes.
we need to be making moves. You don't got to make no public announcement. But
Yep.
you need to get out there and do the things that you
Move.
need to do and be unafraid to do it and have the conversations. There'll be plenty of times, it's not just where we came from, where I've had to share with people who don't value me that I do value myself. And
Mm.
that for me personally, I have courageous conversations all the time. And just because I'm having a courageous conversation doesn't mean that I come across as that I'm not afraid, right? I'm just
Right.
doing it. I'm just a person in the arena, like Brene Brown said. You can't fault me when you're not in the arena. I'm willing to have the conversation. So I've been in spaces and places where I've been diminished a lot of times. And so I started believing that self-talk. But now the
Mm.
self-talk is that at 6:15, you know what my Alexa says to me every morning? At 6:15 in the morning, you are fearfully and wonderfully made. And that was the reminder that I do before I go to work, so I don't forget to pick up my crown just in case if it fell in the toilet. Just in case if somebody rolled over in the parking lot, just in case
Yep.
if I had a really bad conversation with somebody and I just let it seep on the inside, or seep on the inside. I'm just realizing my value. And then more importantly is that the best love that you can give is self-love. So I love
Mm-hmm.
myself. I can really say that
Mm.
wholeheartedly. I don't think for a long time I just you know how you try to assimilate and you try to integrate and
Yep.
you people please, and that's a trauma
Mm-hmm.
response. You try to get along, you go with
Mm.
the flow, and where does the flow take you? I try to stay in my swim lane. I try to be polite, buttoned up, unbothered, classy, not clutching my pearls. And at the
Right.
end of the day, nobody cares, right?
How did you like? Okay, those courageous conversations,
Hmm.
boundaries, creating boundaries in the workplace. Like, or an entrepreneur like myself, creating boundaries with clients and with my team. How how do you prepare yourself for those conversations? Because I am a reformed people pleaser, and
Me
I'm
too.
like
Me too.
I'm still working on it. I'm
Yeah.
a work in progress. But I often find myself in moments where it's like a crossroad, right? And that crossroad is don't say nothing, but you felt it. You felt
Mm,
it, you seen it, and you like, that ain't right. Or going the other way of speaking up and
yeah.
saying something. Like, what helps you at that crossroad?
Wow. Because, being in HR, you have to have a lot of courageous conversations, right? I think what
Yeah.
has helped me get better at it, because I haven't always been good at it, I think one of my go tos was just to get quiet
Mm,
and just kind of fade to the background because I don't like a whole lot of conflict.
mm,
But I'm not opposed to it either. I just don't like it. And so, me too, Altimese. Yes, my hand is up. I am a reformed people pleaser because, I don't like a lot of chaos and confusion.
yeah.
I think
Yeah.
in order to have a conversation, one of the things that I've gotten better at is self awareness. So, of course, I'm
Mm,
rereading emotional intelligence, and you have to really know yourself and your trauma responses. You have to understand how your
mm,
childhood shows up in spaces, whether you're in relationships or professionally. You have to understand if something triggered you, because it could be something as simple as
mm,
maybe you grew up in a house and you were yelled at, and then your boss comes in there and he yells. Unbeknownst to him, because you're a private person, you don't talk about those things, but it traumatizes you. For
mm,
some people, it could traumatize you to do a couple things. Number one, it could traumatize you in silence because
mm,
you can best believe and welcome to see that behavior again. Number
mm,
two, what it does is it gets you so activated to the point that you respond inappropriately. But the
mm,
third response is the in between, which is the healed, recognizing, calling the emotion, holding it captive,
mm,
examining it, and then responding. Most people think they have to respond in the moment. You know what I have learned? I don't ever respond in the moment because
mm,
people already think women are emotional. I never respond in the moment. I may have to do this, be quiet, and I have to get my face right because
right,
normally
right.
my
Because
face
the
will give
face
it
show
away. My
everything.
facial, my body language is gonna give it away because I'm not doing this, like my arms are folded, but I'm doing this. I always make sure that I'm just like this because if you're
Mm.
like this, oh, you automatically,
Right, right, right,
yeah,
right.
you
Yep.
you you getting ready to go to the left, and when you go to
Yes.
the left, then you're gonna have to bring it back. But I've had plenty of conversations, and I've
Mm,
noticed I've gotten so much better at it. I make sure it's timely. I make sure it comes
mm,
from a centered place. And I don't deal with my feelings, I deal with facts. I list facts out. So, example would be you and I have never gotten into it, but say, for instance, you said something that hurt my feelings.
mm,
And I will call it out and I will say, what are you feeling right now? Am I angry? Am I embarrassed? Am I humiliated? Is this a trauma response? Did she
mm,
generate something in me? Am I not 100% today? Did something happen to me? So I start examining myself before I respond to you. And then if I feel like, okay, I've done my little self examination, I reeled it back in, then I'm going to go to you, whether it's a day later, whatever the case may be. I'm not going to let it go a week because that's called ghosting. Okay. Yeah. That a
mm,
lot of people like to
mm.
ghost and they
That
don't like
part.
to have a conversation.
I was going to ask too, because some people will be like, I don't want to talk about it, but then you don't. They don't bring it back up. Like they just,
Never.
yeah, they just like it just floats in the air, and you feel it. You know it's
Every
there,
time you
but they
interact with the
don't say
person,
anything. Yeah, yeah.
because they're conflict
Mm,
conflict averse. That's why
mm,
they haven't dealt with themselves as a whole individual. People show up to work as adults, but they still have childhood trauma. They still have pains. They still are hurting. They've lost people, whatever the case may be. But once I have that conversation, I'm gonna hit you with 3 points. I'm not gonna go over my 3 points because then you're just doing the dump truck approach. But I'm gonna hit you with the facts.
mm,
Example would be Altimese. I love you, but when we talked yesterday, you really hurt my feelings. And I'm gonna tell you the reason why. You said this about my relationship, and I felt like it was judgment.
mm,
Can you just kind of help me to understand why did you make that comment? Did I receive it wrong? Was that the intent? And if I had responded in the moment, you know what my response would have been? I'm not calling her back because
Mm-hmm.
she hurt my feelings. I'm not
Mm-hmm.
texting her back. And you just like you said, it's just floating. And it could be
Mm-hmm.
something as simple as a misunderstanding, excuse me, or maybe you were frustrated and you took
Mm-hmm.
how you felt out on me. So then you have to have the accountability. So I'm learning how to shift and let the accountability be on the proper shoulders. And so
Mm-hmm.
if the person is not liking what I said, as long as I said it respectfully and I tried to keep you intact, that is not my problem. It is not my issue. What my goal is to be a whole and healthy human being. I don't want to harbor any resentment towards somebody because to me, it's not beneficial if somebody did something to you and you just let it float, friend.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
toxic.
Yeah.
Because what that person's going to do is be a cancer because you didn't challenge or ask. And maybe you found out and that person really did mean to be mean to you. Then you need to govern yourself accordingly, right?
I know that's right. I know that. And can we also just mention that when it's like lingering in the air and it's not being addressed, that is also when we decide to remain silent but take a mental note in our head.
Yes.
Can we just acknowledge that, right? Those mental notes, they're they're just as toxic because you have literally just labeled the person in your mind and they don't even have the ability to explain, to clarify, to have a conversation, to either, there's nothing there for them at all. You literally just said, oh, okay, I got you, mental note, and you carry on. It's the same. It's the exact same as like just allowing whatever that unspoken tension to just linger because people feel energy.
They
Like
do.
people can feel it. Like even if you don't come out your mouth and be disrespectful
They
or say
feel it.
something inappropriate, they feel that something is off. They can feel that. They may not say something a week from now. They may not say nothing 2 months from now. But best believe they know, like, something ain't right. Like, are they mad at me? Like, did I say something wrong? That mental note, we got to check that. And as I'm saying it, I'm reminding myself because friend, I think I've realized like now I am at a season where it honestly feels like I'm back at in that season that we were just talking about where it's like you take 2 steps ahead, get kicked 5 steps back, and you just like, okay. However, then I was young and I was still getting the tools. I was still learning the tools. I was still learning to gain the tools in my toolbox. Now, I've been through it. You know what I'm saying? So because I've been through it, I'm like, this feel familiar. So okay, so that mean
Mm.
you know what I'm saying? Like this
You
feel
got the
familiar. So
tools. Yes.
yeah, 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 yeah.
You
So it's
shouldn't
like,
be
okay, so
responding like the woman who was on the bridge.
yeah, yes.
I should be
That's what I'm saying.
responding like the woman on the bridge. If I haven't evolved in my womanhood, that means I really need to check myself and think about getting therapy of some untapped because those data points,
Yes.
what you said, oh, that is so good. Those data points should serve as your operating mode. So if say for instance you were in a relationship and you weren't treated well and your go-to response was just to go off and just
Yeah.
go left, boom, you should be in jail, right? You should just be in jail and just go left.
Yes.
And then
Yes.
you go and you choose the same person. That's a whole nother issue. You choose the
Mm-hmm.
same person just in a different body. You have the same
Come
experience
on.
and it's re-entering your traumatized world. And then the next thing you know, because you got tools in your tool bag, if you haven't evolved and you got to still reach back into that 21-year-old bag or that 30-year-old bag, for me, my 40-year-old bag, I haven't evolved as a woman. You know what I'm going to be? Poised under pressure. I
Mm-hmm.
might have to come in here because I got this bozo over here on the side that nobody can see. I might have to come in here and go 10 rounds with Bozo.
Right.
Right.
Yes.
I didn't know the
Yes.
circus was coming to town, but guess what? There won't be no peanuts and funnel cakes over here, right? But at the end of the day, I shouldn't be responding the same either. Anger is an appropriate response, but it's when it's unchecked anger or it's an
Mm-hmm.
unchecked response. Like, I don't got to get nasty because somebody got nasty to me. That don't have nothing to do with me. Used to be a
Yeah.
time where I'm like, oh, that's just so disrespect. Now it's like, that's your stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And so you can
Mm.
pull these tools out of your tool belt so you can still be a whole human being. Because people
Mm-hmm.
will take you out of character.
Oh yeah. Oh
People will
yeah.
say things to you, they will mistreat you, they will not apologize. You will not get what you're looking for. The only thing that is constant in that room are two things. That will be your response and your behavior, because you can control that. And if you can't control it, you need to exit out of the conversation. Nothing wrong with telling somebody, I can't really talk right now because I can't get my thoughts together. That's not weak. That's a sign of maturity and God being there. Because I will tell God, I will ask all the time, Lord, please show me what to say and how to act. Because my
Yeah.
flesh is
Mm-hmm.
weak.
That thing weak.
It's weak
Mm-hmm.
and it's wicked. And I need you to capture that and put that under control, because this situation, remember I said about the 615 call?
Yeah.
I'm
Yeah. Yeah.
fearfully and wonderfully made. I'm not I'm not anything on a trash can lid. I'm
Mm.
not your trash can receptacle. And those
Right.
are the things like you and I used to talk
Mm.
about all through your life, all through before even Izzy got here, right?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
we talking about me mothering, how we were parented, how it shows up in the workplace, just everything. Check
Mm-hmm.
yourself before you what, Altimese? Wreck
Girl, wreck
yourself.
yourself. Girl, yes, because I feel like people are unwilling to accept their stuff. And because they are unwilling to accept their stuff, they project it out to you. And like I've been doing shadow work, which is really, really hard because it's like looking at the very human, very, I won't call them dark, but it's like things about yourself that you prefer to keep behind closed doors that you just be like, but really those are connected to trauma. They're connected to
Mhm.
trauma responses. So in order to fully embrace yourself wholly and completely as a human being, you can't just love the positive stuff about you. You got to love the negative too. There got to be a harmony where you are become aware that these things exist and say, okay, I'm feeling this. I know this comes from trauma X, and let me sit with this for a moment because I'm going to honor what I'm feeling, but I'm not going to respond based off of that trauma. So let me just sit with it. Let me heal it. Let me understand that it's not about you or me. Like the experience is completely disconnected from why I feel how I feel. It's connected to that thing, right? So I'm dealing with that now, and it's interesting because it's as if like when I said, "Okay, God, I'm willing. Show me these things." They started coming up, and I was like, "What? That's still
Yes, and
there?"
you wouldn't know until you asked for it or you're in a situation that
Situations.
cause it to resurrect.
Yeah, because I didn't have people around me that trigger certain things. Like, we all cool. So, like, I could just be like in a conversation with you. And, like you said, Tanya, we have never had in the years
Never.
we have never had any, that's like the majority of my relationships. Now, all of a sudden, I get little rumble and tumbles. And I'm just like, what? And how I respond, I was like, whoa, Altimese, where does that come from? And God's like, sit with it. Sit with that. Sit with
Yeah.
that. Let's sit and work with it. And
And he didn't say for a hot minute either, Artemis. He said,
no, he said,
sit with
sit,
that, know what it
sit,
feels like, because
sit.
you should not be putting that out in the world. You should, this is ugly. It's ugly whether you do it, it's ugly when somebody else does it. And it's just that shadow work. I heard about that with Lauren
It's a lot.
London. She was talking to Angie
Yes.
Martinez, and she was talking about the
Yes.
shadow work that
Well,
she's so busy doing her shadow work that she don't have time to be looking at what other people are doing. It's of no
You
interest to
can't
her.
you can't focus on other people because you're so like, man, I do that. Like, oh, and it's not to condemn. It's humility.
Yes.
Like once you realize that I'm no better than anybody else. It doesn't matter how much I have read, how many degrees I have, what I do. I am no better than the
Mm-mm.
person to my left nor my right. There, there's no sin greater than the other. So when I recognize and I identify, like, okay, I have this in me, right? And God still loves me.
Right.
Like that love is still there. Like
All those broken pieces.
unconditional.
Mhm.
Like, and then that allows me to say, okay, you know what? I can love all of me, not just the pretty stuff, but the ugly stuff too. Because
Because
the
you know
ugly
it's
stuff,
important. Self
it's
love is
important.
important. But
It
you
is
know what? You
important.
had asked me, Altimese, you had asked me, friend, about the mentors. I'm glad that I had some women in my life that taught me how to be a good mother, taught me
Mm,
about what to say and what not to say. And then I also had some women who just, it just really hurt my feelings.
mm,
That really would say cruel and unusual things that
mm,
were not true, things that did not edify, did not promote me. But I guess God always says that, you know, those things are meant for not your harm, but for your good. But at the time when you're going through it, it's not,
yeah,
it's hurtful. You know,
yeah.
you're just looking to people for guidance, not just your parents. But when you get in the
Mm,
workplace, your parents are no longer there. So nobody
mm-mm,
can be a covering to you. You have to take all the tools, all the resources that you have, and you have to go out and thrive. That is a
yeah,
really hard objective. That's what I can really appreciate about our friendship, our relationship, our mentorship, because mentorship is also telling you the things that you don't want to hear. Like
yeah,
you didn't handle
yeah,
that right.
yeah.
Or you, if somebody say, well, was I being rude? Was I being rude? Yeah, you
Mm,
were. Because you've been rude to me. Those are facts, it's
mm,
not feelings. So it is looking at some of the things that you don't do relatively well, but those mentors, they help you be a better iteration of yourself, right? Some mentors come into your life and they're not really mentors, they're like lessons to teach you of what
mm-hmm.
not to be.
Of what not to do.
What it looks ugly on you. It's not a
Yeah,
good
yeah,
look.
yeah,
It's not giving
yeah.
fashion runway model, Vogue, any of that, right? It's
Right.
giving hate. You know,
Yeah.
because we as women, we have to deal with so many isms in our life. I don't think people understand how heavy it
Mm-mm.
really is. And so you come to work to try to seek some validation, but that's the wrong place to go to seek it. If you're not trying to
Mm,
have validation or self love for yourself, it spills out everywhere. So you're always seeking for somebody to say you did a good job on that project. And then when they come back and tell you it was trash or you could have done it better, you take it personally instead of saying, I did my best.
mm,
Could I do better? Maybe I was under distress. But it's those mentors that come back and say, well, let me look at it. Let me look at the
mm.
project. Let me look at the email that you wrote. Oh, so you were hot when you wrote this. Next time, you know what I would do? I would go take a 10-minute walk
I was
before you
just about to
send
say, you
anything.
remember the skill, the tip you said, go on and do a save draft.
Yes.
Write it up. I remember you write it up. Just leave it. Walk
Yep.
away. Go on about your day, and then come back.
Before you go home and see, do
Gut
you
check it.
still want to send it?
Yes. Yes. It would work like a charm.
Because half the time, Altimese, you'll be like, that's not even worth my time. You
Yes.
firing off an email, and then you know I'm gonna have to put my little HR foot up in there. Beat, beat, like it's all gas and no stopping. Emails are discoverable.
Yes.
Like you
Mm.
send that email
Talk
and
about it.
you got so and so told, and guess what so and so did? He forwarded to this person, and then it went to that person, and your inappropriate commentary because you was hot or you were upset. Now everybody sees it. If you don't want it on the news, Some thoughts to me are better left unsaid. Because if you
Yeah.
thought about it and you said that, I was like, I'm laughing because I was like, that was my go-to. Because I had that
I think you
thing
told me
tight.
about it. I
Yeah.
remember you saying, like, don't send it, friend. Wait a second. Save draft, walk away, and then before you leave for the day, check it and see if
Yeah.
you want to
And if
send it.
and if you're not gonna send it, just delete it. Just
Just
delete it.
delete it. And most of the time, they got deleted or modified.
Modified. I love it. Altered.
Yes.
Changed.
Change.
Reconstructed.
Yes.
That's what
Yes.
you
All
call
the way.
maturity, boo. That's called maturity. You don't fire off nothing. You don't throw a hand grenade and expect it not to be an explosion or an implosion. That's almost like career suicide. Like you
Mm.
really was thinking you gonna tell me off in the chat, or you gonna come through, and you know what I'm doing? Going straight. People don't understand. Like I'm just gonna print. People print that stuff out, right? It's
Yeah.
just be like, well, because you can't. It's like saying something to somebody
Mm.
and you
Mm-mm-mm.
can't take it back.
Yeah.
Words have so much power.
Oh, they do.
They can
I
ruin a
don't think people
whole
notice that.
world.
Yeah, I don't think people notice just how powerful words are. I don't think people realize it.
They
They think
don't.
it's casual throughout the day, jokes, whatever. But like those words hold weight. And I don't know if people realize it, but we speak life. We
Mm,
literally we speak out. I said I wanted to work at Cartoon Network when I was in college. I moved to Atlanta to work at Cartoon Network. I spoke that out my mouth.
right.
5 years after moving, I worked at Cartoon Network.
Mhm.
That was not by no happenstance. That
Did
was
you
no
also remember
coincidence.
some of the things that people did say to you that, not that we love the positive part, but do you remember one thing that somebody has said to you? Because I'm sure it's been many, because we've all that had you really thinking like, I'm not, I'm not this, I'm not that.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. People were very concerned that I was moving to Atlanta with no job in sight and this quote unquote dream job or hope job. Had no idea what I was doing. I remember when I first bought my house, somebody was like, there were two people. One was like, "Girl, what are you doing? You don't even know how like the importance of home management and all this other stuff, home ownership." And I had another friend, or I thought she was my friend. I remember her saying, "So what's your husband gonna give you if you're like buying yourself a house? Like what's he
Mm,
gonna what's he gonna give you that like you're not making room for the man to come in and like give you." And I remember like initially I was like, "Girl, what are you talking about?" But stuff like that, like you said, and I was like, "Well, I'm not trying to like block a blessing, but I like I also don't think I want a man who would be like, "Oh, you got a house. I don't want you." Like I
yeah.
can't give you a house. Like yes, you can, and we can make this a rental property,
I
which
was thinking
happened.
the same thing. Ultimately, it's like any man who loves you, if you went out and bought the house, he would just say, okay, that'll just be another property, or we're gonna sell it and then we're gonna go buy another house. So
Buy
that's
another one.
never gonna be an issue.
It people and I've realized people speak out of their own fear,
Mm,
like out of their own personal experiences, their own personal judgments of themselves, and then they wrap it in this bow of protection. Like they think they're protecting you by saying the things that they're saying when in reality it's not. Like
mm,
God got a whole assignment on your life and it's meant to be fulfilled. And even if they don't see the vision, God gave you the vision. So some of the parts of the vision they won't have. They're not
right.
the visionary having it. So you cannot expect them to be able to see what you see. It's up to you to just move accordingly. And I feel like, as women, we we get a lot. We hear a lot. It's a bunch of things, whether it's from our parents, whether it's from our friends, whether it's from our loved ones, our relationships, like whatever. We get it all the time. Society, what we supposed to be doing, what we not supposed to be doing. And then as Black women, add that in,
Yeah.
right? We carry the weight, right? We were taught, and I know I know you could probably relate to this, but we were taught to be in the workplace twice as good, great, and accept half.
Yeah.
And that was the expectation. Like, no, you don't just show up. You show up in excellence to be twice as great, knowing that you can only get half.
And that's a lot of pressure.
A lot.
It's
And
a
it's just
lot of
like,
pressure to carry.
that's why I'm so grateful for mentors like you, because there were landmines, and I remember a few of them, where had I not had a mentor in my life that knew the organization, that knew certain players, knew the understanding of like, okay, well, if this person got this title, you may want to hold off. You may want to maneuver in this way. Had I not had that, I would have I hit some,
Right.
but there were some that I feel like I was saved from, because other people hit them first, and they were comfortable saying, "Hey, I hit this. Don't don't go there."
Right.
And they were willing to tell me, if you keep going this way, Altimese, this is what's going to happen, and I recommend you shift. Like, I'm so grateful for those women, and I want to, number one, thank you yet again for being one of those women in my life, like constantly, even after that job. But like, I also want to ask you, if there is a woman listening to this and she wants to cultivate a relationship, a mentor, what advice, what tips would you provide her? And, how would you encourage her to navigate those conversations and those relationships?
Yeah, I would just say to this person, and this would probably be to our former selves, right? Is
Yeah.
don't be afraid to ask. Um, don't be afraid to ask a person to who has influence, because there's a different thing too. Is you want some sponsors as well, people who can speak
Mm.
influence and influence the outcomes, that have the opportunities to sit at these tables of decision making. So you want that as well, for the promotion, for the exposure, for the opportunity. That's a separate conversation. But for the mentors, I would be unapologetically unafraid to ask. And if you're going to ask a person to be your mentor, don't waste that person's time.
Mm.
Come prepared with the information that you need. Come prepared, looking for, trying to be solutions oriented. Don't just keep on drinking from the well and not try to replenish. Because the time spent is not just for you to get the information, it's to discover.
Mm.
The mentor
Mm.
is not there to give you all the answers. They're just supposed to open up the resources to you to help you to discover, to increase your analytical and critical thinking, right?
Mm.
So don't sit at that at the feet of all these great people and
Mm.
come away like, I'm just going to absorb all this knowledge. No, no, no. This is a give and take relationship, right? I'm going to give a lot and you're going to take a lot, but
Mm.
you are leading the charge. We're not looking for jobs, we're looking for careers. So if that's what you're looking to do, you're going to have to be open and transparent and not come in there thinking you know it all. Because some people are mentored just to tell them that they are great. You are not. Okay? I'm not. I'm not
Right.
100%. I'm great in a lot of areas, but there's some things I'm just not so great at. And guess what? I'm still okay with me,
Yeah.
because I'm
Yeah.
not great about it. Come prepared to have a real conversation. Because if you're going
Mm.
to be buttoned up, guarded, you're not ready, you're unhealed, you're defensive, you're not going to be able to get the most out of the mentoring. The beautiful thing about our mentorship, it wasn't because we were different in ages, the age differences. What
Mm-mm.
was good about the mentoring is that you were here, I was here, and this was the gift, right? We just pulled. We just pulled out the gift. You would give me books. I've watched you buy your first house. I've watched you have your child. I watched you do a lot of things. I've watched you in relationships. I've watched you pivotal point of your career when you went into entrepreneurship. I watched you work for good managers. I watched you work for not so good managers. And guess what? You've weathered the storm. And it was based on those conversations where you had to be real about what you were feeling. So, unapologetically, if you felt the need to cry about it, that was the safe space to do it. Now, what I need you to do is get up off the floor and go out and be great. Now go reclaim your crown and take that email out of save as. Right? I
Right,
need
right.
you to be a grown little woman. I need you to be the person who you think that you can't be. That's what
Mm,
mentorship is. It's about
mm,
my favorite mentor on my email is bloom where you're planted. And what does that mean? That means even the flower that is in any environment, it could be in the Serengeti, as dry as that is. The
mm,
flower needs the sun and it needs the rain. I
mm,
thank God for our friendship because we've had the sun,
mm,
and did we have the rain and the rain and the rain?
And
We
the
had more
rain.
rain than we had sun.
We did. But I wouldn't trade it, like, I wouldn't change it for anything in the world. Like, because in those seasons, and it was so interesting because I feel like our lives were parallel at times, like, it would be like, it was a season where I needed and appreciated you pouring into me, and then it would flip, and then
Yes.
it'll flip back, and then it'll flip again. And it was this beautiful,
Dance. Yeah.
yeah, it was like a beautiful flow of give and receive,
Mhm.
and there wasn't anyone giving more than the other, and yet, like, it
It
was
was
beautiful.
rich to me. It was rich, it was rewarding, and it was worth it. Because now, as I sit on this other side and I'm looking at your mindset podcast for your company, I'm saying, if you think about that, what a blessing. Again, the flower needs both the rain and the sun to bloom.
Mm,
So, for me personally, I appreciate the mentorship. I didn't know it was going to be reverse mentoring. I didn't know that I still had a lot to learn. And those books, those conversations that you talked to me about being married, I've never been married. I desire to be married still at the tender age of 52. It's that I still desire that. And I realize too my value that I have, that whether I'm married or not married, that doesn't define to make me valuable or less valuable or more valuable. And even in the workspace, I work unto the Lord. I present my gifts to Him. And whenever there is something that I need, I invest in my mentors, and I want my mentors to invest in me, because in these seasons we change as people and as
mm,
women. And then at the end of the day, we hope that we can have conversations like this where
mm,
it's just served its purpose, and it's still going on today.
I love it. I love it. I love it. If someone wanted to just reach out to you and say, "Thank you, Tanya, for this conversation," how could they find you?
Well, first of all, you can definitely email me, or you can find me on LinkedIn. You know, Tanya Turner, I work at Salto as the HR director, and you could just follow me. I always try to put inspirational quotes out there. And then if you want to definitely reach out to me and you want to talk to me, you can certainly find Altimese, and then we can connect from there, because remember, we're all bridges. So she's the bridge to you. And like I said, I'm out there on social media just living my best life. And it's not been easy, but I'm just doing it unapologetically. So, yeah,
Oh, well, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you for
you're
being here.
welcome.
You're absolutely amazing.
You are
And
too. I'm glad
thank
to see
you.
ya.
I know. And thank you to everyone listening. I hope this was just so edifying for your spirit as it has been for me. And we will catch you in the next episode.
We hope you enjoyed this podcast episode of the Ezers Mindset Podcast. Be sure to subscribe to stay connected and in the know of all upcoming inspiring conversations with Altimese Nicole and inspiring women from all around the world. Until next time, stay soft and fearless, Queen.